All right. So in other areas, after you've done your research questions and then formulated your hypothesis, if the hypothesis is based on the research question, you could do so. At your level, it is always important, if you would want to do some sort of develop your own framework. We call that conceptual framework. But what is a concept? A concept is something that has been tested and documented. But concepts emanate from theories. In fact, theories are a bunch of what? Concepts. But the concept becomes a theory when the concept has been tested, documented, and applied in various fields of what? Endeavor. So if the concept is not operationalized, okay, and then used in the wider environment, it doesn't constitute what? A theory. All right. So you see, you have a theory, and out of the theory, we have a bunch of what? Concepts. So at your level, you are encouraged to develop a conceptual study, a conceptual what? Framework within which you're going to work. How do you do that? It's also driven by what? Your literature. Sometimes you go and look at, for instance, I take Porter's 5 forces, okay, and I want to probably modify that, because I see these 5 forces, the new entrants, the substitutes, and all that, and I look at our industry, and I see that probably there's some kind of a shift. We don't really have the substitute variable will not help us. Probably I want to replace it with something. So I pick that and then replace it with a variable I think that will drive what I'm doing. But I don't just put the variable there. It should be driven by literature. Somebody should have said something about it. Okay. And when I do that, I only pick that model and I indicate that this is my conceptual framework. We say Arthur's own construct, but adapted from what? Porter's 5 forces, or Michael Porter 1985 or whatever.
So it's
okay.
It's like just like giving a reference.
Yeah, because it's not your own. Even if it is for you, you took it out of what?
Somebody's
a theory and develop it. So at this stage, you are encouraged to be looking at these things, try to test, develop your own conceptual framework. And if you're able to do that, you can advance it if you want to do your PhD at that level and then see what you can come out of it. Okay, so I advise to and in conceptualization, you have to read. You have to look at existing frameworks, existing theoretical frameworks. Okay, when you do that, it's easy, or it's easier to carry out your research, because then the models, some other people, what they do is they rather do the conceptual framework and then use the models to set the objectives. Do you get it? And based on that, they write what? The problem statement. Hello? And of course, they will have their research questions. So you realize that the guy is not going to review any literature. He has specific variables. So when you pick that variable, you look at literature that will support that. And that same variable is the same thing that has been used in setting what? The research questions. So it's easier to do that. So I tell those at the MSc and MBA level that, hey, try as much as possible to develop what? A conceptual, framework. Look at what others have done. Look at the gaps that exist. Look at the variables, the concepts that you want to use, the variables that are in there, whether you're going to adapt or not. For instance, procurement management is a concept. and it has a lot of what? Variables. All right?
Mm.
And procurement management as a concept belongs to a theory. All right? So if you pick procurement management and then financial performance, that is also what? A concept. And financial performance, the question is, which aspect of
Financial, yeah.
financial performance are you looking at?